I did. I did that on purpose.
Somebody turn off the lights, or?
I did.
Oh, okay.
I was trying to get people to
Sit down. You want me to use the mic? I'll do it. I get to use my Air Force Academy leadership skills.
You still Air Force?
Yeah.
No?
No.
In and out?
What's that? Me?
Air Force? You were Air Force?
Oh, no. We were talking about, I graduated from Air Force Academy, but I crossed into the Marine Corps. Oh? Yeah, I saw the light. Oh. But Keith is retired Air Force.
Back and forth.
Oh, is this me?
Forward and reverse
I can do that.
on the laser.
Okay. I'll be that guy.
Are you still active duty?
No, I retired in, I'm just grabbing my water.
Oh, when did you recent? I don't think so.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Sorry. Am I or is Matt doing it? I don't take it. Matt, you don't. I think it should be Matt. I don't
Yeah, it's getting close to 9 o'clock, so if you haven't signed in before you leave today, make sure you sign in. There's two different sets of sign-in sheets. You only have to sign in on one.
If you turn up too much, you'll get feedback.
Hey, make sure to mention our new. No, I'm going to aerospace. I mean, everything's changing. Many tokens.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Did I hear it can't hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
The mic's not on. I mean, we can hear you.
It is actually on. I guess I just need to be very close to it and speak very loudly. So welcome everybody to the 2025 Skyline Soaring Club annual and safety meeting. We'll go through kind of our state of the club type things at the beginning, and then we will go into our safety meeting, which is always useful and interesting. As a quick reminder, if you have not signed in already, please do so. There are sign-in sheets over there. Use the email. If the email address that's listed is not the one that you use for Wings credit, please write down legibly your email address that you use for Wings, because Ron and the safety committee have worked together to make sure that we will get Wings credit for this meeting. So that'll go towards all your currency stuff. Here is our agenda for today, because no meeting is complete without an agenda. And I get to kick things off with our state of the club.
Are you sure your microphone's on?
Yes. It is. What?
So It's making popping noises, so I think it's on.
Sorry. Continue.
Thank you, Pete. All right, so first we'll start with a review of 2024. It was a little bit of a bumpy season in terms of we got weathered out pretty frequently, unfortunately. We also had some equipment issues, some of which are ongoing, but will hopefully be resolved soon. So we'll keep talking about it as we move on into 2025, but please make sure you take care of the equipment. It belongs to all of us. It is a club asset, and if a glider is stuck at Gairline, it means we can't be flying it, which is no fun. On a happy note, Fred Winter officially donated 341 Kilo Sierra to the club. We've been leasing it from him for years, and thanks to his generosity, we now own it, so that is an incredible asset for us and some incredible generosity from Fred, who's always been a great benefactor to our club. This is now the second glider in 2 years that he has donated to us, which is just fantastic. We finally managed, after several reschedulings, to have our burner day, our away day, in August. So that was a great success. It was beautiful weather. We had a lot of flights, lots of family members show up. So we're looking forward to doing that again in 2025, hopefully a couple of them. And then we had our week of training in June of 2024, where we had, I think, a record-setting number of flights for the week total. I think we were over 250 flights or something like that, which is pretty insane. Yay! And finally, we've been kind of finding our rhythm with Skydive Front Royal and the flight schools and all of the other tenants at Front Royal. As many of you who have been there have noticed, the traffic has kind of picked up. There's been more activity at the airport, but we've been doing a great job coordinating with the Skydive Front Royal and kind of the regular tenants for the airport. We want to always kind of keep an eye out for the folks who may be transiting the area because they are not necessarily familiar with glider operations, don't necessarily know to expect to see us on the right downwind or things like that, or realize that we can't just go around if there's somebody on the runway, things like that. So always keep an ear out and be listening for traffic. As also part of the airport relations, they hosted a safety meeting last year. I think they're hoping to do a few more of those this year. It was great. Every kind of major tenant from the airport gave a presentation on their ops and how things work. Ron and Andrew kind of tag team to go over how our glider operations work, which was, I think, very illuminating for the folks who came. So if that happens again, I would highly encourage anybody who can make it to do so. It was during the day on a weekday, so hopefully it'll be a slightly more convenient time next time. Other good things. We added lots of new ADOs and DOs to the ranks, so that should help kind of spread the load in terms of volunteer days and duty days. And thanks to a lot of work by Rob and by Ralph, we managed to get the base station repaired and a new FCC license. So we can now use the DOs can now use the base station to reach gliders that are not in the local area, which is fantastic. We're going to have more info coming out on kind of best use and best practices with that, because you can actually talk to people all the way down, like by Massanutten, and we don't necessarily want to be hogging that frequency frequently. We also got some mounting hardware for nav aids, so for people who like to fly using UDIs, Nanos, CU on your phone, all those sorts of things, there's now some mounting hardware that'll make that easier to have in the cockpit. I think the instructors have been talking about how to integrate that into our flight training syllabus as well, so that people will be more familiar with that. So that should help with kind of some navigation, making sure you make it back to the airport and all those sorts of things. Other interesting things, the SSA discontinued their FAST program. So I think a lot of you are familiar with this, but this was a program by which somebody who was interested in learning to fly could buy a certificate, they'd schedule and come out for a flight. And so it was just kind of basically an intro ride. But the SSA felt that the program was not being fully utilized, and so they discontinued it. They are working on a replacement, but have not fully fleshed that out yet. They're also encouraging clubs to come up with their own replacements, so that's something that the board will be talking about and thinking about in the coming months. And then the last thing is the fun with the hangar doors. So the hangar doors, we've had some issues with them not opening or with them not staying open once you open them. So this will be my friendly reminder to please do not stand under a hangar door ever, and don't leave gliders sitting under a hangar door either. So keep an eye on them. If you see any issues, if they're not opening or if they're not staying open, let me or the board know. Jake at the airport has been really responsive about fixing them as quickly as he can, since he's a one-man show. But yeah, so just keep an eye on those hangar doors. We would not want anybody to get hurt or anything to get hurt. Thank you to everyone who responded to the club climate survey. I read all of the responses, the funny ones and the sarcastic ones and the helpful ones. Appreciate all of them. And we're working on kind of implementing some of those suggestions that came up. So there was a new ADO checklist that was published in the February issue of Skylines. It's also going to be available on the website, so hopefully that will be helpful for new ADOs to have something set up so that they can make sure they're going through everything. I know Carlos is working on similar ones for the DOs as well, and also one for just kind of when you come out to fly, what you should expect as a general member coming out to fly, how you should expect to help out. We're exploring putting a porta potty at the end of runway 10, since the facilities are admittedly limited down there. I know for 90% of the room who is male, it's less of an issue, but for some of us, it would be nice to have an option. We've also got tents, so we're doing what we can to make operating off of runway 10 less painful. And hangar space limitations were identified as a kind of crucial issue. A lot of people expressed interest in having more space for storing more gliders assembled and thinking that they would be flown more if that would be the case. The airport is going to be making a lot of improvements over the next few years. Through Eric, we're going to be working with the Airport Commission to see if we can get kind of some of our interests and concerns represented. So hopefully we'll be able to get some more hangar space, maybe some more glider-friendly runway lights, things like that. So Justin?
So regarding the runway 10 operations, has there been other discussions about like concrete pads and stuff like that, just kind of building up the other infrastructure, or is a porta potty like step one?
I haven't talked to Jake about that. I can ask.
Okay.
Yep. I'll get with you. We can chat about your thoughts. Excellent.
I'd like to make a point on that.
Yeah.
Everybody landing on 28 is going to have, from a long flight, is going to benefit from the porta potty at 10.
That's a very good point. That is a very good point.
Could you repeat the comments, please? Stephanie, would you repeat the comments so that it gets on the tape?
Sure thing. The comment was that anybody landing on 28 after the end of a long flight would benefit from a porta potty at the end of 10. Ron, did you have something?
So I talked to Jake, and they're willing to pour a pad down there, a small concrete pad to put a potty on. That was the only pouring they discussed. He wanted more, and I did mention that he could pour one where we could something where we set up the tents. So he's open to that. It'd be pretty simple. He's willing to do that.
Yeah, no, I'll talk to Jake about exploring whether we want a larger concrete pad. I think the one thing we'll have to think about is it's harder to stake a tent into concrete than the grass. So that's the one thing we'll have to think about. But we'll definitely talk to him about how we can make some improvements for down there.
The duty officer checklist is also in the March issue, which just got published.
Thank you, Jim. So, duty officer checklist. If you are a new or maybe rusty duty officer, check out the duty officer checklist in the March issue of Skylines. So on to 2025. I already touched on this briefly, but club equipment belongs to all of us, so please, please, please take care of it. We've talked about in the past locking canopies when you walk away from a glider, not leaving canopies open, keeping an eye out if the winds are up a lot and you see the wings kind of rocking, put a sandbag on the wings. But just in general, as my husband always says, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. So slowing down, taking a moment, making sure you're doing things deliberately, and taking care of those gliders. They do belong to all of us. since we are hoping to get 341 Kilo Sierra back at the end of March, but in the meantime, we are still down to only one 2-seat glider, which means if you are qualified to fly a single-seater, please do so. If you are not qualified to fly a single-seater, get with an instructor to find out how you can get qualified to do so. And if you're an instructor who's not qualified to check out people, then we offer free flights for instructors, so that a free familiarization flight in a single-seater so that you can then check out other people. We would like to get those single-seaters flying, especially the Discai are kept 99% assembled right now when Kilo Sierra's hangar is open, so this is a great opportunity to fly them more often.
And Fox Whiskey and the ballast weights?
And we now have ballast weights for one of the Discai for Foxtrot Whiskey. We do not have them for Niner Yankee. It's not interchangeable, but so that opens flying that glider up to folks who might be under 154 pounds, which I know is a smaller subset of the club, but we do exist.
Rub it in.
I think I can ignore the next bullet point because hopefully Kilo Sierra will be back with by the end of the month. And then the Pawnee is undergoing some fairly significant maintenance. We expect to get it back in the next week or two, but it might not be available for the first weekend or two of operations. But it's cool enough that the Husky should be fine, so not too worried about that one. And then a quick reminder to students, please sign up ahead of time for instruction. You can sign up to 2 weeks ahead of time for instruction. It just helps the instructors know who they're going to be flying with so they can better lesson plan, make sure they're moving you through your syllabus quickly and efficiently. If you just show up the day of, there's no guarantees that you're going to get a flight. So that was one of the things that came up on the survey, that sometimes you show up and you only get one flight, and other times you show up and you get 3 or 4. If people are signing up ahead of time, then it makes it a little bit easier to plan for that. We can get a surge instructor if need be, and it just makes it so that we can make sure everybody is getting as many flights as possible.
Steph, you might also remind them to notify the instructor if they cancel there after they sign up.
That's a great point. So yeah, if you cannot make it, then please notify the instructor with as much notice as possible. I know things come up last minute, but if you know you're not going to make it, then please notify the instructor.
And the reason is because there's a lot of times there's a wait list of students that want to fly with that instructor, and they may not have a chance.
Yes, particularly if the instructor couldn't get a surge instructor, there may be students who they turned down. So if somebody cancels, then that gives the instructor the opportunity to contact somebody who they'd turned down to say, hey, you want to come out and fly after all. The duty roster is published on the website. Please check it frequently and regularly. It'll tell you when you are duty crew, and it will also tell you how many students are signed up and who else the duty crew is. So on to 2025 for the fun parts. We're going to have some more away days. We're already thinking tentatively May 10th for a fly-in or away day at Burner. So this is one of our members graciously donates his grass strip in Woodstock and hosts us there 1 to 2 weekends a year, weather depending, and we get to go fly. It's a great experience to fly off of a different strip, get a different sight picture, practice landing on grass, all that good stuff. And it's also, we bring family, friends, that sort of thing, so it's a great time to take people for rides and introduce them to the sport of soaring. I'm going to look at Chris for this one. I know you guys were doing the Condor soaring on Wednesday nights. Is any interest in restarting that one?
Kind of starting to get restarted on that, so we'll keep that going.
Perfect. So there's a simulator for gliders that is very realistic, and there's a group that flies on Wednesday nights from SSC. There's also some larger kind of countrywide groups that fly on, I think, Thursday evenings, virtually in this simulator. So it's something that can be run off a pretty decent home computer. If you're interested, reach out and I can get more information to you. And then last but not least, soaring is a team sport. So when you show up to the field, please show up for as much of the day as possible and anticipate spending that day helping to push gliders and fetch drinks for the tow pilots and the instructors and retrieving gliders and all that fun stuff. That's what makes this work. If you just show up and kind of fly your 3 flights and leave, then we tend to be shorthanded at the beginning and the end of day, and it fosters resentment. So as much as possible, this is a lot of fun. It's great to hang out with everybody. You get to hear everybody's stories. You learn more things the longer you stick around. So as much as possible, please plan on staying the whole day when you come out. All right. And on that note, we need volunteers. We have a phenomenal group of current volunteers who help keep things running, even if some of us do have strong personalities. I don't know who put that one in the survey, but that made me laugh. So I wanted to kind of recognize the people who we currently have serving. You will hear from most of these people today, but this will give a quick preview. So Ralph and Marcelo are our treasurer and assistant treasurer. It is a thankless job. It is a huge job, and they do a phenomenal job. Chris and Allison and Pete are our safety committee, and it's again, they do not have the fun part of investigating when things go wrong, but they are also in charge of keeping us safe and helping us figure out how we can improve our operations to be more safe in the future, and we couldn't do it without them. Tim is our membership coordinator. He's the one who is the friendly face that everybody sees when they reach out to Skyline Soaring, and he does an amazing job with that. Mike handles our duty roster and does all of the computer magic to schedule everybody on the days that you can make it, which is fantastic. Ken, our hangar meister, makes sure everything stays nice and clean and organized. Ayrton makes sure that our computer on the field keeps running and is all set up, hooked up to the internet, all that good stuff. The DOs couldn't do it without him. Pete and Brian are our webmasters. They make sure that all the documents get posted and that the website is still running. Pete did a huge upgrade to move it into the 21st century this past year. So if you've enjoyed looking at the nice spiffy new website, that is a big thank you to Pete. Evan is our 321 Kilo Meister, so he works with Keith to help make sure that all the maintenance gets done for that. Rob handles both of our disci. Where's Rob? He makes sure that the letters get sent in to get them registered every year and handles getting the annuals and all the maintenance done on those. Kevin is our PW5 Meister, same thing, making sure that everything, that it's ready to fly and that when you show up at the field, everything is legal and safe. Steve is our Gator Meister, making sure that the oil changes get done, tires get flipped when they need to, all that good stuff. Andrew handles all of our tow plane maintenance, making sure that we actually have a way to get into the field, or into the air rather, thank goodness. And then Matt handles our external relations with the county. So really appreciate everybody who donates all of their time. And with that, we have some open positions that I would love to get some volunteers for. We've put out several calls and via email or by the newsletter and haven't gotten a lot of interest. So I am standing up here appealing and pleading, please volunteer to help us out. So we've had some people express interest in helping to be a K-Meister, so we really appreciate those folks who have already stepped up. We'll also be looking for a newsletter editor because Jim would like to enjoy his hard-earned retirement. He's put many years of service in for the club, and I think he deserves a break. So if you enjoy working with Microsoft Publisher or putting together stories to get out to the club, if you enjoy reading Skylines every month, then please consider being our newsletter editor. We're looking for somebody to kind of keep an eye on the trailers. This is a pretty straightforward one. Just make sure that the tire pressure is okay and the lights work and the inspections get done once a year. Boom, done. Okay, it's not too bad. And then also looking for somebody to be our merchandise and refreshment meisters. This person would, once a month or so, just stock the fridge with Gatorades and waters, make sure we've got some chips, and also kind of just keep an eye on the stocks of all of our, our lovely Skyline Soaring branded shirts to make sure that we still have them when we need to. And if any of the sizes or styles are getting low, just order more. So again, not a huge lift, but something that really helps keep the club running smoothly. So if any of those appeal to you, please come see me at some point during this meeting. Do you want me to do the announcements? Okay.
Under the awards, we've got some people doing some great things.
Use the mic.
Oh, these are yours, I'm sorry. I haven't got to the formal ones yet. So you can go ahead.
I would like to recognize some accomplishments that happened over this past year. So Cliff had his first solo. Woohoo! He looks thrilled in that photo. Ryan and Andrew both got their private pilot. Andy got their private pilot ratings. Yay! And then Chris got his commercial glider rating. We have a whole list of folks who got their A badges awarded from the SSA, and if you don't know what the badge system is yet, ask your friendly neighborhood instructor, but it's a way to recognize various milestones in your soaring career, and we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of them today. So this one is generally consistent with your first solo. B badge recognizes staying up for, I want to say, an hour, 40 minutes, something like that. It's a longer solo. It means you actually know how to find lift and work it. So congratulations to all our B badge accomplishments. C badge is 2 hours, as well as some spot landing. So this means you need to really be able to find lift and actually use it. So again, congratulations to our C badge folks. And some of these, I feel like these people have had this for a long time, but we just got around to recognizing it. Bronze badge, this one is you have to pass a test, basically. And once you've got your bronze badge, you're allowed to go cross-country for Skyline soaring rules. So if going down the ridge appeals to you, then bronze badge would be a good one to work through. So congrats to Ralph and Hugh and David for getting their bronze badge. Silver, there's 3 parts. There's both a distance, there's a time, the 5-hour bladder test, as well as an altitude gain requirement for this one. So congratulations to everybody who got their silver badge this year. Gold is even further and even higher, although thankfully not longer. So congratulations to all of our gold badge folks. And then finally, the most coveted Diamond Award. Pete managed this one this year. So big congratulations to Pete.
How many years did it take?
Enough.
35.
Pete is a wealth of information on how to find and use lift and how to have great glider flights. So please, everybody go talk to him, and he's really friendly too.
Pete, how high did you get on that ride?
22,500 feet.
Other accomplishments. So Ron continues to impress everybody. He hit 1,000 CFIG flights with Skyline Soaring, which is just incredible. He was also the #1 SSA CFIG for Region 4 and the #2 in the whole country. So we're very fortunate to have him. Chris got his tailwheel endorsement and is now flying the Husky, so hopefully we'll have a new tow pilot coming along soon. And he also got a self-launch endorsement, which is pretty darn cool. And Marcelo accomplished his first land out, and from what I hear, it was a tiny postage stamp of a field, and he did a phenomenal job setting it down and in a beautiful fashion. Ben graduated from VMI and has been commissioned into the U.S. Air Force, so big congrats to Ben. He'll begin his Air Force pilot training at Shepherd in June. I got my tail wheel. Andy checked out in the PW5. And then we awarded Jim Kellett a emeritus membership for all of his many, many years of hard work and selfless volunteerism supporting the club. There's before and after pictures. That's what years of SSC will do.
Yeah, you can, no, it's, I'll just hand it.
Here we have kind of our official awards that go on the plaques on our Wall of Fame, or Wall of Shame, as I think Ron was calling it earlier, that get hung in the FBO. So, most flights by a general member? We had a tie. It was Cindy and Nick. Come on up, Cindy and Nick. Come on up. Please come to the front.
So do they have to fight for the trophy?
Who's first?
Wishbone.
Cindy, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, my hands are cold.
Don't run off.
Okay.
And Nick, here you go.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Oh, okay.
Somebody taking pictures? Perfect. Thank you.
Eric George got it.
Thanks, George. Congratulations, both of you. All right, most flights by an instructor. No surprise here. Ron Wagner. Come on up, Ron. There you go. Great.
Photo.
I apologize for being under 200 this year, but we got rained out in September.
I feel like we should just permanently engrave your name on this. All right, longest flight by time. John Noss in November Golf.
Thank you.
We'll get it back. Longest flight by distance. Pete Barber. Woohoo! There you go.
All right. All right, you want to go?
Thank you, Pete.
All right.
Highest altitude. Pete again.
I'm sorry, you're supposed to.
Here.
There you Well done. Oh, okay.
All right, most toe pilot toes. Hugh. Come on up, Hugh. I saw you. Hugh's here somewhere. Come on up. It only took Richard moving to Canada to, and I know he's going to watch this later, so it only took Richard moving to Canada. But we got, Hugh has the most toes.
You
Richard.
ran competition out of the country.
Please don't move.
I'm not moving to Canada. The weather's too.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Last but not least, most OLC points. Uwe! Nice! So this is an online system where you can log your flights, and we can compete with other clubs around the country, and we generally need to do better about entering our flights. So thank you, Uwe. Come on up.
No, he's here.
I saw him. There he is. He's hiding.
Get your trophy, that's really count.
Yeah, it does.
It absolutely counts.
Take your medicine like a man.
I'm so proud of you.
Big toe.
But part of it was Namibia, so
That's okay.
doesn't really count.
Doesn't matter where it happens.
It was in Namibia.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
That's so cool.
That is cool.
Congratulations. Okay. All right, next, probably one of my favorite ones to give out, the Gogos Award. So Bela Gogos was one of the founding members, I believe, and so this award is in his memory, and it goes to somebody who has gone above and beyond supporting the club for the past 5 years. And the board was very clear on who it should be this year. This person is a retired Marine, not former. I know better than to say former Marine. Retired Marine. He's currently a pilot for FedEx. He was our safety officer for 3 years from 2018 to 2020, which was not exactly an easy time to be a safety officer. And he was a glutton for punishment because after that he ran for the board, and he's been serving as a board member ever since. He's also been representing Skyline's interests at the Airport Commission for the past year or two. And so he's been instrumental in kind of making sure that we have a voice and getting us better integrated into the community with the airport. So it is my distinct honor to present the Bela Gogos Award to Eric.
Yeah, you did. Of course you did. Thanks. Thank you.
All right, just a couple of quick slides to go through the numbers that kind of represent what we did last year. The spaghetti slide, the thick purple line with all the big dots in it is what we flew this year. So we're kind of in the middle of what we typically have done. The big jump in June was the week of training. Not really any surprises. That's what our calendar looked like. A green day was scheduled and flown. A red day was scheduled and not flown. So you can see the week of training in June and the week of raining in September, which was going to be the second week. So we do occasionally lose a day or two. Flights by year by aircraft. What you can see in 2024 was when we lost one of the Ks, the other one picked up a lot of the slack. The other thing to take away from this one is the number of private flights is down to 39. That's our lowest ever. That's for two reasons. One, we didn't have any great soaring days that brings people out. And the other one is we have fewer private gliders than we used to. We do, however, now have two nice Disci, and people who want to fly a nice single-seat glider can do that. Glider utilization, there's 3 bars for every airplane: total flights, total hours, average flight time. The PW5's getting used well, that's good. And not much private flying. Pete's Duo was down for most of the year, that's why he's not maxed that one out. Number of flying days, the names aren't important, but this is just a pretty typical distribution, the number of days that people come out to fly with the club. There's always going to be people that fly a lot and people that barely fly at all. Number of glider flights as a pilot, not as a instructor. Again, a pretty typical shape of the distribution. Pretty typical shape of the distribution of flight durations. Each flight is a horizontal line going from 0 on the left to the max flight time at the far right. And they're just stacked from longest flight to shortest flight, top to bottom. So that's a typical shape, but the top was a lot thinner than it normally is. Number of long flights by year, down a little bit. In case you're wondering, that big patch in there from 2012 to 2017 or so was when we had a lot of private gliders, a lot of good weather days. People just came out and flew an awful lot. These were the flights over 3 hours. typical repeat offenders. We'll cover instructor flights later, and tow pilots is in Shanes Park. DO and ADO duty days, volunteers at the top, people that come out on their own when they don't have to. And in general, people at the bottom are folks who've just checked out recently. So you average about one every 2 months. And those OLC numbers that Uwe probably didn't know he was going to get collared for, I pulled off of the OLC account, and he must have done some phenomenal flying in Namibia with some of the world's finest pilots in an Arcus. And I can't wait to hear the whole story behind all that.
Skylines issue. You should write it up for Skylines.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Good morning, Skyline.
Morning, Ralph.
Morning, Ralph.
Did you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm Ralph. I'm the treasurer, and my assistant is Marcelo. He can't make it today. I should say close to this. Here's my annual appeal. We use QuickBooks Online for our accounting tool. And on QuickBooks, we can have 3 users. And so I need a third user, and I need somebody with an accounting skills. You know, we have a lot of airline pilots and former military. We need some diversity. Yeah, I said it. I said the D word. Now, so we need a member. I don't need an outside accountant, but I need a member who's got some accounting skills to fill that open position. So when you're sitting with your tax guy or financial advisor this year, go, hey, you know what? You would look good in a glider. You need another hobby. So think about that. So we had a good year last year, and so those are our numbers. Strange enough, the total revenue is only a couple $100 different than the previous year. So it's about the same. The net revenue, we are a nonprofit, a 501c7. That's a club, not a tax deductible thing. So we're a club. So we don't have income or sales, we have revenue. Sounds much more sophisticated than revenue. So there's our numbers for the year. We'll talk about why, get some clarification on this. So of the total revenue, we split it up into 2 halves. Years ago, the board of directors said that what we want to have is on the fixed revenue, we want that covered by the dues. And fixed revenue is things that if we don't open the doors, we got to pay those bills anyway. And that comes from dues and initiation fees. And then the variable revenue is from the operations, flying the gliders and the tow planes, things like that. So it's kind of evenly spaced on for the numbers there on those two. Now, I tried doing a graph or a chart or something, and that's just not my thing. So here's my attempt at a graph. So of the fixed revenue, here's where the money's come from: dues, initiation fees, the SSA dues. We take that money in and pass it on through. So that's not too big of a deal. So okay, so the fixed revenue, we talked about that. 74,400 revenue and 75,900 expenses. Not the kind of number we want to hear. But we got 2 items in here we want to talk about. Here we have bad debts. In calm down. In the QuickBooks Online, that's it's transferred over from when we had QuickBooks Desktop. It's been years and years. We had members that left years and years ago. I'm talking about back in 2005 and things like that. And they stiffed us with some money. So finally this year I got some help with some online, QuickBooks Online accountants. You can rent an accountant for an hour or for a while for a phone call. And got figured out how to write these off and for the bad debt. So we used to have like a list of 300 people as when I had members in there. Now it's just down to the 100 or so, that's us. So we write off bad debts. It's just a paper thing, not a big deal. And then down here on the bottom, we sold the Sprite. So when you have those expenses and the sale of the Sprite, so that actually the net revenue is positive, $3,500 for the year. So we won't call for a dues increase at this time. Variable. All right, so our, as you can see, our economic engines are tow fees and sailplane rentals. That's where we get the big bucks. And tow planes, Husky and Pawnee, thank you, Andrew, for keeping those running, that we don't have tow planes. 341 Kilo Sierra, this 7700, that's a little bit larger than normal, and that's because we bought a canopy. And so when the gliders, it's up in Gerline now getting fixed, we're going to have a equal or about the same charge this year on our account for the installation of the canopy. The repairs from that it's up there for, that's going to be covered by insurance.
When we say we bought a canopy, it's the clear portion. It's not the
frame. Yeah, it's just the glass or whatever that stuff is. So we'll probably have a little extended 341 Kilo Sierra next year, but that's all right, we can handle it. Down here, tow ropes. I have to give a shout out to Joel Huff. I think the tow ropes have been really great. You know, they're organized, they've been always there, they're clean, they're color coded. Thank you, Joel. So net variable, 32,750. Hey, all right. No? Okay. So what do we do with that money? Well, we have it in checking and savings. In fact, the majority of our money is in a interest-bearing savings account. But we divvy it up for future use. So we put aside money for, what I do is for each flight every day, I allocate $5 towards the engine fund and $1 each towards recovering operating capital and avionics. So $9 out of each flight gets set aside for future use. We were talking about a new K someday. You know, we have a capital fund that we could allocate towards that. So really available at this as of December 31st, we had 29.7. It looks better now because we've been collecting all the dues. All right, so here's the part you've been waiting for, the highlight of the show, the Treasurer's Heroes. So first off, Pete Barber, come back up here. Yes, sir. In January, we had a wave camp. And February, had a wave camp. And had $2,900. And most of that money was people not in the club. So Pete brought in some money that wasn't club money. And then the week of training. I mean, they had like 20, 30, 40, 50 flights a day. That is some major cash. So I designate Pete. I designate Pete a Rain Man. Not be confused with Ron Wagner. As John said, instead of the week of training, he had the week of raining. But Rain Man. Thank you, Pete.
I'm going to wear this properly.
Yes, please do. We also had some individual contributors. Cindy Lawyer, Nick Meter, come on up here. Now you saw them that they were co-winners of the number of flights. So yeah, they I'm not going to give any numbers, but
You're welcome.
let me say they dug deep and took the vow of poverty, but it paid off. Both of them soloed this year. Nick even soloed in the PW. So, well done, y'all. Oh. Yeah. Forgot that part. All right. Oh. Actually, here, I want to take the time to say thank you. At the end of this year, our mega member, our super member, the driving force behind all of the good things that happen in Skyline is going to retire. Keith Hilton's going to retire and move to, where are you going to?
Wisconsin.
Move to Wisconsin. Oh, Wisconsin, beautiful state. Got milk and cows and cheese.
It's pretty cheesy.
You know what Wisconsin's motto is? It's come smell our derriere. But you know, I don't know if you really look around. Whenever something happens, if you're the DO and you come here, Keith is already here. The Ks are already pre-flighted. Like, really? He's the secretary of the club. He organized this today. He's the K-Meister. So we saw that 3 people have volunteered to be K-Meister. It's going to take at least that many to fill his shoes. So thank you, Keith, for what you've done and the service you've done, and you've been a great asset to the club.
So most of you know me. I'm Tim Moran. I'm the membership officer. I'm going to keep this really brief. If anyone has any specific membership questions, I'm available after the meeting to talk. I'm just going to talk briefly about our club membership and some of the duty roles that we have. And so we're electing new directors. I'm sure that's coming later. So you see the outgoing members, and we had 2 candidates. So we'll hear the results of that soon. So Stephanie talked about this in a good amount of detail. I'm not going to read through the whole list, but I want to again point out how the club really runs on volunteerism, and nothing gets done without one of the club members doing that. And this list shows all the people who are involved in making the club run. The newsletter editor is highlighted there, so we're looking for a new newsletter editor, and Stephanie pointed out other positions that we need filled. So if you know, if you're thinking about doing something, you know, this would be a great time to step up. If you're already, if you're a new member, maybe you haven't started ADO duties or DO duties. If you've been with the club for a little longer, you know, you might be an ADO already or a DO, but you might consider taking on an additional role for the club as well. So just keep that in mind. We need more volunteers. Again, list of the club meisters. So for anyone who's new to the club, meister is someone who's is in charge of making sure that like a specific piece of equipment stays operational. If you're interested, you don't have to be a AI or mechanic to become a meister. You just have to make sure that the work gets done that needs to be done.
Speak up a little bit, please.
Yeah. So to be a meister, you don't have to be a mechanic or an AI. You just have to be in charge of making sure that when something needs to be done on a glider or a piece of equipment, that actually gets done. These are just some membership counts for this year and the past years. You can see the membership for the club has been fairly stable. I mean, for quite some time we've been around or a little bit over 100 members. This is a longer chart that goes back to 2001. Again, you can see, you know, maybe slowly increasing, but generally very, very stable membership in the 100 member range, going all the way back to like 2012, I think it is, or 2011. And just some closing comments. For most of you know, we have a wait list for new members. For anyone who doesn't quite know how that works, the wait list is only for new members who don't hold a glider rating. So it's very, very simple method of determining if you have to go on the wait list or not. So if someone comes to me and says they want to join the club and they already have a glider rating, but maybe they haven't flown in 20 years, they don't have to go on the wait list. On the other hand, someone might come as a power pilot with a lot of experience but no glider rating, and they go on the wait list. The wait list currently has, this says 44, it's actually 48 names on it, so it's gotten quite large. It's not the largest it ever was. I think during COVID it went above 50 people on the wait list. It's kind of, I guess you could see that in two ways. I mean, on the one hand, it's hard to see like all these people who would really like to be getting involved in soaring and not being able to you know, take them in. But on the other hand, you know, it's good that the sport interest in the sport is not dying, and you know, we do have a reserve of people who are interested in our club when a spot becomes available. Yeah, so when I put people on the wait list, I'm generally telling them to expect to wait 1 to 1.5 years, and it might even be in the 2-year range for some people at this point. We have 3 SSEF members joining this year. I think 2 of them are here today. Anatol Jadek and Christopher Billups.
Wave if you're here.
I see Anatol there, Christopher in the back. Hello. And we also have a new member joining, a glider rated, that's Fritz Traits.
Right here.
Right there. Hello, Fritz. And so at the end of last season, we saw that there was still a high demand for instruction. The roster was filling up, and at the same time, we're down to 1K right now. So For the start of the year, we're not bringing any new members in from the wait list. We're going to wait and see how that goes, and probably wait until the second K is back. And that's all I've got. Any questions? If not, I'm open to, questions afterwards. You can come up and talk to me. All right. Thank you.
Shane is up next. Shane, you're up.
I forgot one thing. Who wants an SSA calendar for $1?
Which year?
Go ahead. I got one calendar left over. So what you can do is take a dollar bill. Put your name on a sticky to that dollar bill and put it in there.
Wow.
And we'll have a drawing. And they get the calendar for $1. All the proceeds are going to go to the Skyline Soaring Educational Foundation, Tom Ward. All right?
All right, my name's Shane Knightsey. Some people pronounce it Neatsy or Nitsy, but think of being on the sea at night, for the sake of interest. These photographs here, that's a picture I took bringing a Pawnee back from western Nebraska, just miles and miles of terrain, and this was last fall down in Newcastle in the Discus. That was a lot of fun. So currently we have 10 to 11 active tow pilots. We're really kind of down one right now temporarily, hopefully due to medical. Hopefully we back up to 10 to 11. Sorry, it's floating there. Down over 4 over last year. We had 14 tow pilots last year. And these are the guys that are flying now, minus one. And a lot of them also flight instructing gliders. And we have 3 check tow pilots, but we're all busy. Sorry for the delay. We've got 4 people ready to come in, maybe possibly 5 as tow pilots. Have to continuously recruit new tow pilots. It just seems if we don't do anything in this, it's happened in the past where we're down to a real critical level, and we got guys towing 2, 3, 4 days a month, and we don't want to hit that again. Special shout out to Richard Good for a record-breaking number of years of towing and all the tows that he did. And these are the 4 good new guys that I have listed. Chris, which I flew with him, and he soloed in the Husky. Michael Osmers is going to do well, and Chris Worker and Anana, I have yet to fly with him. This is number of flights by tow pilot. Once again, we had 14 tow pilots, but only 11 flew last year. So it's, of course, we know. I like to bring my numbers up too, and I see some of the people at the bottom and they're thinking, "Oh, we got to tow more." Yes. Top 3 tow pilots, Top Gun Award, Hugh McElrath. Yay. Followed by Andrew Nielsen and Rob Holman. All right. The noise abatement that we've been flying up, I melded in a little bit of safety talk because I don't like to get up here twice. Sorry about that. Maybe next year.
You get a little closer to the microphone so we can hear you? Or hold the mic.
Nah, I'm not. Anyway, I try not to.
Shane, or else they can't hear you on the video.
Okay.
It's not for us.
I try to meld in a little bit of a safety briefing in this because I don't want to come up here twice. Maybe next year. So noise abatement's been working. Haven't had any complaints over last year. Full power takeoff to 500 feet on center line for extended center line. It's really good for the residents that are close to the airport, that we're not flying over their house to the right or to the left, or it scares them when we're flying 100 feet over their house. Pawnee only, we reduced the RPM by 100 RPM after the 500 feet. Just reduces the tip speeds, and it seems to have helped a lot. varying the departure paths on takeoff. I mean, if we do the same thing over and over again, we're just drumming over the same houses. So I think a lot of guys are doing that, so it's a good thing. Primarily into the prevailing winds. We want to avoid a downwind takeoff. Got to think about it. Even though we're varying departure paths, try to keep it technically into the winds. None of the above overrides safety. So consider your tow pilot. We tow for hours and hours. Must like it a lot. It is a lot of fun. If you could help with refueling in the TCP, which we get a lot of that, which is really nice. Ask them if they need anything to eat. Always ask them if they want water. And the little things are appreciated at the end of the day. A bit on the safety side. Tow pilots, if you think what is happening, or or anything like that, this is strange, I think it would mean release. You don't have enough time to sit there and try to figure out what is going on. And number of the accidents that have occurred in the past or near accidents, it's just things happen too fast. Sarah Arnold had a near upset, and fortunately the pilot was able to recover, but she said she would not have been able to recover herself if the glider pilot hadn't recovered. Stay hydrated, eat and take breaks. On hydration, I think that's the number one cause of accidents. People don't want to have to urinate while they're flying. They drink coffee and tea before they fly. Drinking lots of water and finding a way to eliminate while flying is good. Maybe that's the reason why we've seen a reduction in accidents over the years, is people are more aware of dehydration problems. My typical: avoid complacency, use checklists, good airmanship, avoid distractions like using cameras while flying. I've tried it in the past. It is very, very distracting. Share towing with others to increase their proficiency. Memorize the SSA signals. You've got to just keep re-upping on that. We may be out with the Pawnee for a little longer, hopefully not more than a couple of weeks, but there's a chance since with the Husky only, and now we're going to start flying in two-place, hopefully QQ2. We want to deal with headwinds only, no tailwinds. If the density altitude, it seems to be a field at about 2,500 density altitude is where we want to start flying single seat tow pilot, the gliders only with the Husky. As a tow pilot, when we take off on 2.8 and we're really low over the trees, wondering if we're going to make it over the trees, and like, daggone, I don't want to do that again. You know, of course we won't, but it's a shame that we have to get to that point. It'd be nice to find data points over time to say, all right, what kind of winds can we deal with? What kind of density altitude can we deal with single seat, two-place, QQ, so we don't have to get ourselves in a situation where we're wondering if we're going to make it over the trees. Be a bad spot to have to pull the rope on a glider.
Shane,
yes.
Does single seat also mean K with one pilot, or that's not included?
I don't know, John. Hugh, what do you think? Is it easier to tow the K with one person in versus two? Can you tell the difference, anybody?
Yes, definitely.
I can tell. So, but it's a lot easier to tow the Pee-wee. I mean, we're climbing in the Husky on a hot day at 800 feet a minute.
To make sure it's still back.
Yes. But it'd be nice to find some data points to where we can come up with a graph or something the tow pilots can look at and say this is going to be a go, no go. Don't pay attention to the left side. I'm not a mathematician. I won't be able to explain things easily. I wish I could. But on the right-hand side, it's a graph from the Pilot's Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge. There's a lot of information in there giving you general ideas of what degradation of takeoff would be. Climbing over making it over a 50-foot obstacle based on tailwinds, increased gross weights, and density altitude. A 10% increase or 10% tailwind increases the takeoff distance by about 25%, 21 to 25%. That sounds like a lot. Now let's add an 1,800-pound Husky with a 1,300-pound glider. That's 75% increase in the gross weight. What's that going to do to our takeoff distance and climb over, clearing a 50-foot obstacle off the runway? Then we add in density, altitude. I really want to try to get people here to say no more tailwind takeoffs. If the day is going to be an east day, and we get that through talking to flight service in the morning, winds are going to be generally out of the east, why not start out on 10? I know it's a pain. We should not override safety for the convenience of the FBO. The history of the 5-knot tolerance for allowing tailwind takeoffs at Front Royal in our gliders stems from when Reggie would come out, and every time the windsock changed direction, he would make us change direction. The thermal could be just whopping it around. He'll say, oh, you got to change size. You got to change size. So he capitulated and said, okay, we'll allow you up to a 5-knot tailwind. And that kind of grew into say, well, we'll allow up to 5-knot tailwind just for the sake of ease of operations operating off of at the FBO. I really don't like it a lot. I think it's just poor airmanship. It's forcing other people who are coming cross country. They listen to AWAS. They're planning 10. They switch over to Unicom, and they hear we're landing on 2-8. And they're like, what? So we're kind of forcing them to go into our flow. They're landing with a higher energy, more brake usage, more runway usage. It's just generally poor form. And if they're hard-headed enough, which I might be, to sit there and say, I'm planning on 10 anyway, now I'm counter to your operations. And that, just imagine some poor student, his first solo cross country, and he's going to come to Front Royal and has to deal with that. It's not fair to them. So I was, once again, if we have a prevailing east wind, let's stick with 10. Yes?
Just to add on, just with the tailwind takeoffs, it may be very light on the surface, but I know from painful experience that once you get up, maybe up 50 feet, that tailwind can really pick up in speed, which will chew up what you got left remaining.
Yeah, wind gradients can be quite a devil to deal with. So I know that working at the FBO is very nice and convenient. The toilet down at the end will help a lot, but we cannot allow the convenience to override safety. Anyway, so that's all I have to say about that. Thank you.
I got a question, Shane.
Yes.
So, at my home airport, we managed to get 2 stories taken off of a building they were building off the departure.
College Park?
Yeah. So, I believe that there are standards for approach and departure angles to and from a federally funded runway, whereby you could encourage the landowners to top the trees. Are we within that?
14 CFR Part 77.
Yeah.
I don't know. My
understanding. The question is, are we within that here? Would we be able to lobby for
taking off on 2-8?
Yeah.
It's my understanding the airport owns that, a lot of that land on the other side of the road already, so they could cut them trees down.
Right.
Coming up this way, we have.
There's a mountain.
Right.
How they can fly around that? From a commission standpoint, the airport is well aware that there are trees that are near the airport that need trimming, and you can't just cut down trees. Agree with you, because they're talking about the beacon, that you can't see the beacon at night if you're 5 miles away at 1,500 feet. Like, you should be able to see it. Well, at night, you shouldn't be 1,500 feet, 5 miles from this airport. But cutting trees, environmental impact, who's going to do it, et cetera. So I will bring it up as far as off the departure, but I don't know as far as it's called the clear view typically.
Yeah.
Departure path.
Yeah, the question is, it's geometry.
Right.
Are we there yet?
I don't know. Trees grow, but I guarantee the airport's not moving. So it would only get worse. I will bring it up with the airport commission.
Anybody else? Thank you.
Okay, some instructor stuff. We've got a big, long list of instructors. I don't know of any other clubs that have this many instructors. We're very fortunate. Some of them are sharing duties as tow pilots, but I think that's good. I think seeing it from both sides helps. More than half of our flights have an instructor on board. We're thankful to have surge instructors when we ask for them. Stephanie mentioned that earlier. We'll ask for a surge instructor if there's like more than 2 students that have requested to fly. If students 3, 4, 5, and 6 don't ask until Friday, it may be too late to get a surge instructor. So ask early.
Hey, John, you've got Wallace on there, who's the most uncurrent instructor in the club. But you don't have Ron Wagner on there.
Sorry. All right, typo.
Take that trophy.
Yeah, take it back. He's
on that one.
I'm on that one.
Okay, in case you're wondering about the color codes, the reason I put Monday through Friday in the lighter colors makes it stand out who pulled the share during week of training and the occasional midweek ad hoc day. What'd I do? Stephanie already talked about student load. I'm not going to hammer that to death. Some important recent changes that everybody needs to know about. The FAA has hit us with a double whammy of change in rules. It used to be that an instructor could claim currency if they were flying as an instructor with a student. Now you can only claim currency towards your 3 takeoffs and landings in the last 90 days if you were the sole manipulator of the controls. That means saving a botched landing by a student doesn't count as a landing for the instructor. Also, students used to be considered crew, and passengers were passengers. Now they're both persons, and they both require the instructor to have 3 in the last 90 days. So what that means is we're going to be competing with everybody else for sole manipulator of control time for tows and gliders. And that's going to impact everybody. A recent club change, now if you're going to practice a rope break, you have to have an instructor. So no solo practice rope breaks, unless you're an instructor. That's all I had.
And so, because of the change in rules, there's been some discussion over who should pay for these instructor currency flights, whether it should be the club eating the cost because the instructors provide a service to the club, whether it should be the instructors eating the cost because they're the ones who want to instruct, or some combination thereof. So I have a few slides to kind of introduce some of the thoughts behind that, some of the options, and then we're going to have a vote because if the club is paying for any of it, it's going to mean a dues increase. So we didn't want to do that unilaterally, so we're putting it up to a vote. So for things to consider, the historical precedent within Skyline Soaring Club has been that instructors pay for all their own currency flights. The change in rules happened in like 2006, but even up until 2011 or so, talking to some of the folks who've been around a while, the instructors would pay for their own currency flights. So that's kind of the historical precedent for us. Under current SSC rules, the club also already reimburses instructors for their instructor currency training that is required by the FAA, so long as they go to the SSA-sponsored FERC. So there's already kind of some incentives that the club provides to instructors to keep them flying. But instructors do have to pay for their own spring check, so there are also some costs that we already asked the instructors to bear on their own. We talked to some other clubs in the area to see how they're doing it, and they were kind of roughly evenly split between covering the instructors' currency flights versus asking them to pay for it themselves. A big thing for most other clubs is that it was a non-issue. They have few enough instructors and enough ab initio students that the instructors are going to be doing takeoffs and landings regularly with a student on board, and so they'd be able to log those towards their currency flights, and it's a non-issue. Again, where we are extraordinarily fortunate is our huge long list of instructors means that they don't fly quite as often, so it makes the burden on them less in terms of their duty to the club, but it then makes it harder to stay current under these new rules. The other clubs also echoed that they considered this to be a really good change by the FAA because they thought it was important that the instructors actually have hands-on time on takeoffs and landings. That, you know, if you have to save a bad landing by a student at the last second, if you've actually been landing recently, then you might be in a better position to do that versus just sitting in the back watching somebody fly. Other things to consider, this is an FAA rule. It's not something that the club came up with, and so the rest of us who are non-instructors pay our own way for currency. If we want to take a passenger up, we're expected to pay for our own currency. The question is, how different should that be for instructors? So something to think about.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I don't believe it was a rule change. You probably know better. It was an interpretation.
Rescinding the interpretation.
Can we repeat the question?
Shane asked whether this was a rule change or a change in the interpretation, and my understanding is that they rescinded the, I'm not going to try and pronounce it, interpretation that starts with a K. Covalax, something along those, interpretation.
So the answer is yes to both. They rescinded the interpretation and then they made a change to 6157.
Do you need me to repeat that, or is Pete loud enough? Okay, thank you. So another thing to consider is if the club is covering or help offset some of the costs for the instructors, how do we make that fair? We've already seen there's vast differences in how much instruction different instructors give. If we say we're going to give 12 free flights to every instructor, is that fair when some of them fly 200 plus instructional flights a year? I'm looking for Ron. I forgot where he's sitting. And some of them fly 10. There's differences in how much the instructors fly for fun. Some of them have their own gliders and fly regularly, or take the disc guy up pretty regularly and fly for fun. Are we going to discourage that if we say we're going to pay for currency flights for you guys? And then how much each member uses instruction. We all need it for our spring check unless you manage to stay current throughout the winter, which is tricky since we don't have regular ops. So the instructors do provide a huge service to our membership in terms of being there, but the students use the instructors a heck of a lot more than most of our rated members do. So is it fair to ask everybody to pay for more dues to support paying for the instructor currency flights when some of us use the instructors more than others? Again, if there's a lot of ab initio students, this is effectively a non-issue. This is not the case for us this year, where we're kind of limited on how many students we're bringing in right now until we have our second K back. Greg?
Yeah, I have one question. It would help, I think, to know how much money are we talking about? What financial impact would this have on the club?
You know, that is a great question, and I am getting to that, I promise. So I'll present a few options.
To know, because we haven't tracked it before.
It's some kind of back of the napkin math. Let's see. The other thing I wanted to mention is that if we're talking 15 instructors and 12 flights per year, so 3 every 90 days, roughly 12 flights per year, that would represent 10 to 15% of our yearly ops. Like, that is a large percentage.
And that's, I just want to point out, that's going to happen anyway.
Yes.
And that's, we're going to have to take that on and figure out how to take that on.
Yes.
Whether instructors pay or the club pays.
Yeah, so these flights, they're going to happen. So it's...
Well, if the instructors pay, then there's no reason for an increase in dues to cover that.
Right. So I think where we're going with that is if we just say 12 flights for every instructor per year, will that encourage people who wouldn't necessarily need a currency flight be like, hey, I can go get a free flight, and then it's taking away from a paying member, or would they just not show up? And it's hard to know. Steve, you had a thought?
So can the instructors also just, when they have maybe it's rare for us to pay an ab initio student, and on the first flight they're going to say, I'm going to demonstrate this, and say, check that off.
We do that for the first 3 flights with that ab initio, and we can share the ab initios amongst the cadre.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think when we have a lot of ab initio students, like a...
And it could be reasonable if I'm flying with a student and they want to do some advanced soaring or whatever, wave flight. I could ask them, can I do the takeoff and the landing? Would that be okay with you? And they probably would say, yeah, that would be fine.
You can. I think the question that we run into there is we just would want to make sure that if that's the approach that we take, we'd want to make sure that the cost is not always getting foisted on the same student, that it's not always the same student who is being told, hey, do you care if I do the takeoff and landing? So I think that when there's a lot of ab initio students, you're absolutely right that that the instructors could use that as their takeoff and landing, absolutely 100%, and that would count toward it.
Made aware of why we're doing this, and they can decide, no, I would like to do this myself. And that would be totally fair. They're paid.
They are paying for it, and I think arguably takeoffs and landings are usually what students need the most practice with. At least that's speaking from personal experience. That's what I needed the most practice on.
Why don't we keep going with it, and then we hold the questions, because I think it's going to get addressed.
Okay.
And then we're going to hold questions at the end for a little bit.
But is it?
That means you. Just can't do it.
Their job, however.
The instructor's discretion, that's kind of to do like machines, that's right.
So other things to think about, it was brought up that we would be asking the instructors to pay a non-zero amount, a few $100s when you kind of crunch the numbers, $400 per instructor per year if they had to pay for all 12 currency flights out of pocket. And they would be essentially the only duty crew member who's being asked to pay a direct cost in order to fulfill their duty to the club. If a tow pilot is not current, they can hop in the tow plane and do their 3 and 3 before the start of ops, no problem. And it just kind of gets rolled into the cost of ops. But that's a lot harder for an instructor to do just because of the logistics of how long it takes to do your 3 glider flights. And it also uses more club resources, right? It uses both the tow plane and the glider. And it's using a glider that a paying student or a paying member could have been using. But on the other hand, we have a vested interest in keeping our instructor cadre relatively happy. I put relatively. They're never going to be perfectly happy. I've flown with them. I know this. But relatively happy. But as an alternative, the instructors could DO or ADO to fulfill their duty to the club, so they'd still be, participating and volunteering, putting in that sweat equity, the same way that we all do, in a way that wouldn't cost them any money. But then we'd lose some instructors, potentially. So the options that the board came up with and would like to present, and again, we can talk through other options as well, but this was kind of our first swag at it, and to put some numbers to it so that everybody has something to work off of. If the instructors pay for 100% of any currency flights that they need above and beyond their flights with ab initio students and that sort of thing, then there's no dues increase for the club, but we will probably potentially lose a couple people from the instructor cadre, maybe, don't know. The next option was that the club would pay for 50% of each currency flight. And for this, we were saying currency flight is a 1,000-foot tow, so a pattern tow, in a single-seat glider, because that is kind of the cheapest and the least impact on club ops. So that's kind of what we were going for that. And if we pay for 50% of each currency flight, then it's going to be a $25 per year increase for dues for every member. And we would need a new log sheet program option that either has an option for a half-price flight or would have like the club as the payer. So I'm looking at Pete since I know you're the one who does the log sheet program. So I tried to think through what the second order effects would be. So that's a kind of a logistical thing we would need to have in order to implement that. Another option would be that the club says we will pay for up to 6 currency flights for each instructor. That would still be a $25 dues increase, but the instructors would need to track their free flights. So that's kind of something on them. And it could potentially disincentivize them from flying for fun, taking a discus up for a nice 3-hour jaunt around the area or something like that. And our last option was that Skyline, the club would pay for 100% of up to 12 flights. So it's completely covering any and all currency flights needed. That would be a $50 dues increase per person per year. And again, the instructors would need to track their free flights. And those were kind of the options that we came up with. I'm sure people have opinions.
For every instructor.
Right.
To have those flights, because Nos has his own glider, he flies it more than 12 times a year. Pete Barber.
Yes.
If I ever get
Further to Shane's point about sharing a flight with a student, and it just occurred to me when you mentioned that, Shane, is that if you're going to share the flight with a student, say they're up and away, you're doing the takeoff and landing, split the cost of the flight. That way it incentivizes the student, because they're not paying for the whole flight, and so then they're going to be more willing to let you do the takeoff and the landing, and it doesn't touch club revenues at all.
Ron.
On the same topic, I'm thinking in the same way. John, you said a few minutes ago that like saving a landing doesn't count as sole manipulator of the controls. Correct. So, but at what point could we take over? Could we let the person, I mean, I think the takeoffs aren't going to be a problem. I mean, most people, takeoffs are easy enough. We can just say, hey, I need a takeoff. I don't think most students are going to mind if we do a takeoff every now and then and let them have it at 500 feet. But on the landing, where's the cutoff going to be? Can we let them bring it around on final, line it up and say, my flight controls, and we bring it in from there and that counts?
Yes.
Where's the line?
I defer to the lawyer and the FAA in the room.
But saving one.
Personally, I would make the call putting up the spoilers on down there. That's where their pattern and land.
So that's not the law, though. I mean,
It's logged as a takeoff and a landing.
isn't this an FAA regulation as to what a takeoff and a landing is?
No, I just said there's nothing written. If you ask me, that's just my answer.
So I found some things that were written, but there were more than one, and they were different.
Justin.
So just polling instructors here, like I have no problems paying, but if I'm losing time and money to maintain this currency, like that's where I think we get the disincentive. So I think we can keep this dues neutral if instructors are just able to, hey, I'm here for my instructor currency flights, like I don't have to wait in the queue. Like I think if we do that, we can keep it dues neutral. It's a policy change based on the FAA, and I think most instructors would go for that. I don't know, I'll poll the instructors. Like, I'm happy to pay as long as I don't have to stand in line and get current.
Could you repeat that, please?
Yeah.
So,
are we voting?
No, I'm just.
Is it the group of instructors voting or the club that's voting?
I'm just asking the instructors because as an instructor, I don't want money. I care about time.
Right. Yeah, you don't want to have to be there all day. You get 2 flights in and you come again next week. That's a good idea. So, you know, you might only need one flight to have 3 flights in the last 90 days.
Let me just repeat it just for the video and for the people who are watching. So Justin's suggestion was that we make a policy change so that the instructors pay their own way but would basically be at the top of the queue, which I think could work really nicely if we have 2 tow pilots in the mornings, because you could alternate the instructional flights with a single seater for another instructor to get current, because there's usually not enough business in the mornings to keep 2 tow planes busy.
All in favor?
I'd like to give an alternate instructor view. I actually don't favor either the top or the bottom one. I favor the middle one. And what we're asking, what I'm asking the club is to pay, I'm asking each person to pay $25 a year, which is about $2 a month extra, so that I don't have to pay $400 a year. And by the way, I just want to point out, I'm going to have to pay more than $400 a year, because I'm going to have to come out an additional day to do this currency, because I'm not going to come out and slow down operations by doing it the day that I have instruction. So it seems to me it's $25. It's practically nothing.
Chris, I think you had a thought?
I did have one question. You defined concurrency flight as being in a single seat glider.
I did.
How do if I don't need currency and I need the 3 landings, how can I fly a single seat club glider?
This isn't talking club currency. This is FAA.
Well, I realize this is to meet FAA currency, but if the club currency won't let me fly a single seat glider if I'm not glider current without a spring check.
You still need your spring check.
2 more flights.
Okay, so basically, what the implication of this is, I can take 2 single seat, assuming the PW5 is up and running, because obviously the Discus may have additional currency requirements, or I think that may have changed. I just don't remember what the new rule is. But basically, I still need to do a dual flight with another instructor to get club current, and then I can go transition to the PW5.
Correct. Yeah.
So this solves like half the problem. And I want to echo Justin's point. I second his suggestion.
But we talked about, one of the things I've heard and seen in emails is that we talked about increasing the 90-day, because the FAA doesn't have this 90-day rule. And if it was our own glider, we could go out and fly after more than 90 days. And let instructors have maybe 120 or 150 days. I don't think it would be a lot easier for us to maintain currency.
There was a lot of thought that putting an additional day requirement in there just adds a layer of complexity that nobody really wanted to deal with, because then you're not only just tracking your 90, you'd have to track an additional one too. So we thought it would be simplest, and this is not simple in any way, shape, or form, but in order to keep it as simple as possible, to keep it to the 90 days.
It would allow us to jump into PW5 and not get in the queue.
So I think Justin wanted to poll the instructors on his suggestion. So can we have a quick show of hands? Anyone who would be okay with Justin's suggestion that, do you want to repeat it?
There's no dues increase, but the instructors get a procedural, hey, they jump to the front of the line when they're knocking out their 3 currencies per 90 days.
Let's try that for the first year.
In the
See how it works out.
I think that's what we're doing right now. As a practical matter, when I show up and I'm the duty instructor, and like tomorrow, if we don't fly this afternoon, I'm not glider current.
Right.
So I'm going to do.
You're going to have to be.
The suggestion was, as a practical matter, all the duty officers have been accommodating with that, and I try to come out on other days when, I'm not the duty instructor to stay current, but I can't do it over the winter necessarily.
But if we codify it, then members won't grumble about why does this person get to jump in front of me?
So let's do a quick show of hands for the instructors, and then assuming that there's a reasonable number to whom that is acceptable, we can do a show of hands for the general membership.
Instructors only first vote.
Instructors only first vote. Who likes Justin's proposal?
Repeat the proposal.
I 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So, as I recall, that's more than half.
Yeah.
Okay. For
Stephanie, quick question.
Yes.
With that, are they going to have priority for the K, or are they primarily going to be flying one of the single seats?
One of the single seaters to the extent possible. So I will acknowledge that the spring check requires one of the Ks.
Some one PW5 may not be out, maybe this guy.
Gotcha. Then K if they need to.
They at least have to let people know, right? It's kind of like when you have your, what do we call it, once a quarter, where you can take a guest
flight.
privileges. I don't have a problem. I'm not an instructor. I'm just a guy.
The instructors all have the ability to edit the duty roster, so they could put something on the duty roster saying, you know, I'm going to be here getting my currency flights in, and that way it would be clear to students. Seem reasonable? Okay. So
as a courtesy, they should let whoever the DI for the day is know.
And let the DI for the day know.
It's on the roster, the DI. I mean, it is.
Should. Okay, so show of hands for the general membership. Are you in favor of allowing instructors to jump to the front of the queue for their currency flights to the extent practicable in a single seater with zero increase to dues? Raise your hand if aye. That seems like an overwhelming majority to me. I think the motion passes. Excellent. Yay. And thanks to Justin for coming up with the idea. Carlos is not here. Yeah. Carlos is in Argentina bragging about how warm it is. Damn it.
Well done. Don't cry for him.
So he would like to reiterate as the chief duty officer, he is in charge of kind of overseeing member volunteerism for the duty positions. And so he would like to reiterate kind of the expectations for club members in terms of participation and volunteerism. So it is expected that all members who are actively flying are going to also help participate in the duty crew rotation or some other member, some other duty role within the club. So some of the Meister positions are time consuming enough that we say you don't necessarily have to be on the duty roster. Treasurer is one of them because that's pretty much a full-time job. So we don't ask Ralph to come out and also DO, but Marcelo does. Kudos to him. So it is expected that everybody is going to participate. This includes both rated pilots and students. So students, you're not off the hook. Granted, we're going to give you a little bit of time to get your feet wet and understand how ops work before we ask you to run said ops. But it does also include students, and it includes our scholarship recipients and everybody. The introductory role is generally assistant duty officer, where you are the person who's hooking up the glider on the runway. We won't just throw you into this without any help. We will train you up. There's tests, there's shadowing, there's a whole program to make sure you are ready. And on non-duty days, if you're at the field, we would still like you to pitch in and help. Ask the DO, ask the ADO what you can do to help. The number one thing is pushing gliders. It takes 4 people to push out a fully loaded 2-seater. A 2-seater with 2 people in it, butts plus seats, right? That's the rule. So if you've got 2 seats and 2 butts in them, you need 4 people pushing that sucker out and 5 helps on hot days. Regardless of whether you are on the duty crew that day or not, if you come out to fly, please pitch in to help before and after your flight. And before leaving the field at the end of the day, make sure that there's going to be enough people to put everything away. Some of those gliders take 4 people to put them back in the hangar so that we can get them in there safely without banging wingtips on walls or things like that. And that causes damage that we really would prefer not to fix. So make sure we're going to have enough people to help put things away at the end of the day before you leave, please. So for our duty crew stats, it has gone up a little bit in terms of the number of duty days per year for average per ADOs. We've gone up from 3 to 4. Hopefully we can get that back down a little bit with having added a few new ADOs to the roster last year. And for DOs, it has stayed fairly steady at 5. So that's once every 2 months. You're expected to show up and do some sort of duty where you're not flying. That's the part that stinks about being duty crew, right? Is that you're stuck on the ground launching everybody and not flying. But unless you're an instructor or a tow pilot, in which case you get to fly as part of your duty. But our targets for 2025 are kind of to stay where we're at, if not add a few more people to kind of lessen that burden and burden share. We've already seen some of the stats. Here's 2024. We had fewer flying days, but better distribution of duty loads in 2024. So that's a good thing. We want to make sure that everybody's kind of pitching in and it's not falling unreasonably on any one person. And we got, like I said, more qualified DOs and ADOs. Here's our current roster of qualified ADOs and DOs. And, I guess that one was 2023. Here's 2024. This is what happens when I present slides that aren't mine. We have some ADO candidates, so that's awesome. We're going to be getting more people trained up. And same thing with the DOs. We'll be getting more people trained up. And consider this your warning if you didn't know you were about to be trained up as an ADO or DO. All right, Carlos's goals for 2025. He's going to work on updating and consolidating all ADO and DO documents into a single location on the website. So there will be a reference point where you can go and look and make sure that you feel comfortable with everything that will be asked of you if you are an ADO or DO. He has already begun creating the easier to follow checklists for both ADOs and DOs. As we noted earlier, the ADO one was in the February newsletter. The DO one will be in the March newsletter. And providing in-person training as much as possible, well, as needed for ADOs and DOs. So if any experienced folks would like to help out with training and being somebody that a candidate could shadow, then just let Carlos know. I'm sure he would be happy to have other people volunteer to help him out with that. We're also looking to increase the roster of active ADOs and DOs, including at least 3 new ADOs and 2 new DOs, so that we can reduce our number of duty days per member. There we go.
Go quick, we're about halfway through the slides and we've
Okay.
got 20 minutes.
So, okay, I'll keep this as quick as I can. What button do you push that one? Well, that's a laser pointer. There we go. So, again, just all boilerplate stuff. We're in good shape with consumables. I like to keep a supply on hand just in case we, well, I guess was it last year, we had a tube go flat, but because we have some stock on hand, I was able to repair it, and there was absolutely no downtime. Husky, we did the annual in record time. Stephanie and I, we went over to Winchester to help Nick, so we got it done in a day. There's a couple of outstanding maintenance items, but it's not safety of flight related. You can just see kind of some of the statistics there. Pawnee, it's actually had, I think, 2 fewer tows this year than it did last year, so it's very, very even. So the time we've run up on the engine, kind of an interesting point. We did a very unscientific guesstimate on when the engines will reach their recommended 2,000 hours time between overhaul, and it should be, the way we're using them, the way they're at, in about 7 years, they'll both be due. So that's, because we were talking about dropping the tow fees, and then like, maybe we want to rethink that. So that's one of the reasons why the tow fees really aren't going down, because we need to put that money into the engine fund to be able to have enough to be able to do the overhaul in the engines, because they ain't cheap.
50,000.
And outstanding issues. Yeah, this thing's got more issues than my ex-wife. So, I don't know if I'm not going to read that out to you. I'm just going to give you the Reader's Digest condensed version of it. What came out of Argentina last year was an airworthiness directive that explains that there's an issue with the spars on the Pawnee. Stress corrosion cracking, holes that have been improperly drilled into the spars, and there's a whole thing of it. It's not required by the FAA for us to look after that. It's not an AD in the United States, but it's one of those things that when you know there's a potential issue, I can't ignore it, because this is, you know, literally lives on the line on this. So with Nick's help, that's the reason why the Pawnee is being delayed, because he's had to really tear into that airplane, and we've had 3 independent AMPs with inspection authority look over the spars, and they're good. The right wing is the original wing on the airplane. The left wing is off a PA-25-235. It's been grafted on. So years ago I made the joke calling it patches. I did not realize just how accurate I was. Okay, Keith, if we go, and this has happened in September of 2024 in Mexico. It was a gender reveal. I think gender reveals should be banned because they always seem to go bad. Well, they go viral. So that, we don't see it up here,
Keith. The instant relief for snoring at home.
Hey, stop using these things for snoring. This is what your throat looks like when you're...
I know. Yeah, we'll just, if you can't get it in the next 30 seconds, I'll just tell everybody to go look at it, or I'll just send out the link. Tell you what, Keith, I will send the link out to the general membership, and they can look at it on their own. Basically what happens, the 2 trouble areas on the wings are Bay 1, which is at the wing root, and Bay 6. And the video that I had hoped to show you shows a gender reveal. Pawnee comes over, he drops pink water, pitches up, it rolls, boom, into the dirt. The pilot did not survive. So it is, I showed Nick, and I won't repeat what he said about it. So the good thing is it should be ready by the end of next week. Right wing's fine, left, as went over that. And the pulley system, remember John, you were saying that you felt it was, yeah, I've got a picture of it, but because of the corrosion from its spraying days, the pulley system for the flaps broke. So you can just see some of the damage here. I am very embarrassed about that. That's the engine frame. That should have been picked up on pre-flight inspection. I was the last one who flew that airplane. And I'm very happy to be deeply embarrassed in front of the whole club, because I got lucky. Complacency kills, ladies and gentlemen. We need to be very thorough on our pre-flights. I have no idea when that broke. It might have broken on the way over to Winchester, but I don't know that. I don't know how long that's been like that. And so we got lucky. I was complacent. I was sloppy. I did not do a thorough pre-flight, and I got away with it. So just wanted to bring that up to everybody's attention. To end it, we do have an in-house capability of doing a lot of stuff. Tire changes, oil changes, brake work, and such like that. It's been really great working with Nick, getting trained up on that. And if anybody has an interest in, if you can tell the difference between a wrench and a screwdriver, and you've got even the slightest interest in learning how to do some of this stuff on the tow planes, please come and talk to me. It's fun to share knowledge, and it'd be nice to expand that capability in the club where we can have more than one person who, other than our AMP, which costs $100 an hour, by the way, plus travel time to come out to the field. So if someone wants to join me in it, it's very rewarding, and you learn a lot. All right. And any questions, comments?
Hey, Andrew, didn't you have Nick paint the new frame white?
Oh, yes, thank you. Yeah, so thank you for reminding me. So because of the frame breaking, the only thing that I can think of that caused us to miss this is a black frame in a dark engine compartment on a dark background, so I asked him to paint it white. That way, much like with the engine frame on the Husky, that way, if there's any anomalies on the engine frame, it's my hope that it'll make it much easier to spot. Yes, sir?
Talk about the brakes.
Yeah, the brakes, they have been an ongoing issue. Nick cannot find the leak, but I've gotten proper instruction and training on the easy method to filling up the brake reservoir, so I will be working to, every time I come up, I will top off the cylinders, whether there's been an ask or not. But yeah, that's...
Something I'd like instruction on, if there's a better way to...
Yes, absolutely. All right. Thank you. Anyone else? Sir?
Have we done a hydrostatic on the brake lines?
No, we have not. But I can ask Nick about that.
Yeah.
Anyone else? All right, thank you.
Okay, on to our gliders. They're all in fairly good shape. John went over kind of the usage. There's 321 kilo. Last year we got the new seat cushions, did the annuals. We do the standard replacing tires and tubes as they're needed, and repaired the trailer lights and wire harness. Projected for this year, hopefully, is just the annual. And I did replace the LX Nav harness, so now the repeater in the back seat should work. So far it has, and I guess people have flew it. Okay, everything's good. Inspections due, the annual's due in April. Recert of the ADSB in February of next year, and every year we have the Virginia trailer inspection. We do have an issue with this trailer. We can't seem to get it registered, so use the other trailer if we have to. I guess we don't have it's a long story. If you ever want to know, let me know. Thanks again to Fred for donating the ASK-21 341 kilo Sierra. It was huge. You can see the usage, average time on it. Maintenance from last year, transponder repair and recert. That was my fault. When we had the land out, we took the wings off without disconnecting the battery, and you'll rip the battery cable off the battery, and if you wire them backwards, you'll burn up everything. So, my fault. Let's see. I had the temporary repair of the canopy, the standard tubes and tires and stuff, and I replaced the struts on the trailer, so clamshell, so the trailer stays open. It's up at Garland right now, and I begged and pleaded with them. I think Pete's glider was up there for 6 months, and I begged, and hopefully it's done by the end of this month. They tell me things are going well with the repairs. You kind of see the damage there, and also the canopy being repaired. Having new seat cushions made right now for it, so when it gets back, it should look like a new machine. Annual due in July this year, ADSB recert in a couple years, or next 26. Yeah, Rob's been doing a great job taking care of the Discus. They both are beautiful ships. If you're not qualified to fly it, you should work on that. Last year, we standard conditional inspections. Thanks for Andrew for making the weights for that, the ballast weights for it. And since they are experimental aircraft, they do get conditional inspections versus the annual inspection. So conditional due on this one in August. I tried to do, we did all the transponders on all the ships all at one time, so they all come due at the same time, so they only have to make one trip down here and we just knock them all out. So. The other Discus, we had the canopy repair last year. We installed ADSB transponders, so all of our gliders now have ADSB transponders on them. Ram ball mounts for the UDIs and so forth that you want to put in there. PW5, when we got it, the front wheel was all bent up. It was nothing we did, so we did get that replaced this year. Did the ADS-B installation, and you can see when the inspections are due. One thing I did notice, and that was on my own airplane, I went to do a very, very, very thorough inspection on it, and I noticed my FAA registration was expired, which shocked me because I keep up on all that kind of stuff. Well, when I went to look up on the FAA website, it said, no, my registration was good until 28. But there, so as I tried to get a new registration, I run across this. It's right from the FAA website, so your registration, as long as their date of expiration is January 31st, 2023 or later, they're still valid. And what somebody I think told me this morning, they're going to be valid for 7 years. So I'm going to put a copy, I've got a copy of this particular slide that I'm going to put in each glider along with if the registration's expired, so people will know it's okay if it shows expired, they're good. So notify me or one of the other glider meisters if you ever see anything wrong that needs to be repaired. Nick, who does the powered aircraft, also does our annual inspections, and then Daniel Wells still does conditional inspections. My pet peeves, don't forget to clean off the bottom of the glider, especially if you've had to do a grass landing that day. Make sure you clean off the bottom. Be gentle when you're putting the tail dolly on. That's one of the things I'm having repaired on 341 Kilo Sierra while it's up at Airline, is they're taking care of all the chowed up scratches and dents and dings and stuff in the bag. One of my biggest pet peeves is people, if there were 4 tires standing there, they would put all 4 tires on the wing because they think the airplane's going to take off, still somewhere. So please just put 1 tire on the wing. Place the ballast, and make sure you put the ballast in the proper bags for the between 321 Kilo Sierra and 341 Kilo Sierra. It should be noted that the bolts, the fasteners that hold the ballast in the 2 ships are different. The ones for 321 Kilo are longer than the ones for 341 Kilo Sierra. The weights themselves are the same though. Anybody have any questions on gliders? Cool.
Just real quick, it's a team effort. The nice tow ropes, the ADOs are taking real good care of them. Tow pilots are laying them off to the side, so they almost never drag underneath the glider tire.
Close to the mic.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Hear you.
Forgot. Let me just grab the mic. Yeah, the tow pilots are doing a great job laying off to the side. All the ADOs are using a hook. I think I only saw like 3 or 4 feet on a tow rope that got dragged underneath the tires, so 3 cheers to that. Oops. The yellow part is what you should read. Inspect the splice about 2 feet from the ring every flight, and after an event like you're doing slack lines or something, you want to see if it's broke there. Extra fibers, more than 10 in a strand. You can retire the rope. I usually have 4 ropes out there, so you can retire rope, and there's usually 2 shiny new ones ready to go. Also, you use the rope with a red cable tie first. I've seen occasionally some people just pull any old rope out there, and if they did that all the time, you could have 4 bad ropes all at once, and that would not be fun, because I come out and I have 4 ropes I have to replace, and I sometimes can't do that. So that's that slide. Then when you take it out of service, the reason you take it out of service, if you could put a loop in it, that would tell us where it's at, so we don't have to search the whole rope trying to guess what's there. Does anybody have any questions? Next then.
Hey, great job on the mic, thank you.
I'll try and do just better. I'll try and do a little better with the mic as well. Okay, I'm going to start off by saying the 5 years I've been doing this external relations stuff, this is the first year that has been somewhat calm. There's been a lot of changes in the last 5 years. A lot of it's behind the scenes, but it's been kind of nice. Airport Commission. I'm not going to read all these other than Eric. They're all upstanding citizens. And more importantly, I think they are all pilots. For the first time in a long time, we have actual active pilots on the commission. This is an advisory board. What, did I do that?
Yeah.
Okay. To the actual airport management, which is Jake Snyder, which you see probably a lot, the airport superintendent, and Mike Berry. He's the public works director for Warren County, and he is the official airport manager. Events, Wings and Wheels again, May 10th, Fall Fly-In, October 18th. May 10th, I believe, is a Burner Away Day, which is probably a good idea.
That was intentional.
Other users, something that's really changed in the last 4 or 5 years is we have more than us there. 2 flight schools, of course, skydive, more active repair facility. Silent Falcon is still there. And we have the Friends of Front Royal. Friends of Front Royal is also a good friend of this club. Projects. We have new hangars going in, 60 by 60 and a 47 by 60. One where we keep trailers, the other's where we used to keep trailers. Windsock at the west end of runway 10. This is probably a long time overdue. And car charging stations.
Yeah. Explain charging stations.
Yeah. One thing I do want to point out with, there was talk about pads and stuff. That's a lot of work. Some of these projects go on for years and years and years. Lots of government involvement where you have state environmental people, federal environmental people, state and federal aviation people. It takes a lot of work. To add a pad on the north side might require the west side might require a lot of environmental studies and all that, so it's not as easy as it might appear sometimes. I'll end with this. Next year, they're looking at resurfacing the runway. That's a 1 or 2 month project where the airport will essentially be closed.
What season?
What?
What season?
What season?
Time of year. Winter, spring, summer.
Hopefully winter.
It'll probably be during our flying season. You can't do it in the cold.
Yeah, asphalt needs hot, warm weather.
So that's going to be a big impact. The board's aware of it. It's been brought up, and it's nobody's really, even the power pilots are not happy with it, but it's probably something that's going to have to be done.
Turner Field.
Someplace we can go.
I'm sure Bill would love to have us camp out for 2 months.
Any questions? I know we're running on the time, but any questions?
When they say for the glider trailers are going to be putting hangars there, where are they going to go? Have they identified a place?
There still should be room for trailers in that area. It has not been brought up yet. We'll move further along on this. We will secure that.
Yeah, as far as the skydiving operation goes, we actually fly at Front Royal, but they just drop in.
We'll give Greg some mic time after the whole meetings are completed.
Craig wasn't able to be here. He asked me to come up. Oh, what's going on with this?
You were clicking through.
So first thing I want to do is I want to thank everybody here. Everybody here is the big beneficiaries of keeping the getting the foundation and having our new members come in. So I just want to pass the thanks from the whole board. Here is the board here. So we're always looking for other members that come in, just like the other volunteers within our group. But remember, our primary purpose is we're looking for the next generation of pilots. So your donations and everything are what help us get into this. And we have some new folks here today. So this is what we've been doing. Of course, you know, you've seen Taylor, Andrea, John out here a lot, Jackson. These folks all had some really good flights the last couple years, and it's been very good. Next, I'm next. So these are our new recipients. Who's back here? Is it? Could you stand up, please? And where's the other one? Yeah. So these are our two new ones. You know, we want to get them kicked off at a good start this year. We had an amazing group of candidates this year. It seems like our pool of candidates keeps getting better and deeper, and that's what we want. We're trying to make sure that we have these very talented young individuals out here coming in and joining us in this great endeavor to keep moving forward. So here, we're always, like I said earlier, we're always in the need of new board members. Any activities we can do to further benefit and move forward the Education Foundation would be great. Ralph, thanks for putting out the donation kitty. Yeah, so if we could get that passed around and everybody throwing a buck, we'd always appreciate it. But let's just make sure we can help everybody out, and I can take any donations if you have any today. I think that's pretty much what we have today. Yep. All right.
As Stephanie noted, the FAST program is now gone. There is a possibility of clubs creating their own type of FAST program with 50 students on our wait list. I'm not sure there's a reason to do that. If there's non-expired FAST certificates out there yet, we can still honor those.
Some that are expired, they may allow them to be used.
Okay.
I'm going to talk to them.
Okay, Shane said that some of the expired certificates might be able to be used. So that's going to drive a change. This is kind of a trivial change to our bylaws, but it requires a vote by the membership to change our bylaws. So in order for me to, and voting members are charter members, full members, and emeritus members. So this is what I have to take out of the bylaws. The statements about FAST membership was a special membership category. So can I get a vote? Anybody opposed first? Okay, anybody, all in favor that I take that out? Okay, it looks like we got enough people. Cool.
Just as a clarification, that's going to take effect after all the certificates that Shane was talking about get used?
Yeah.
Like in other words, if someone comes in, you remove it today, and someone comes in tomorrow and says, I have an unexpired FAST certificate.
I have someone who just reached out and bought a FAST in September.
Okay.
I would wait a year before you leave.
Yeah, I mean, you
Might be a good
could
idea.
just mark it for deletion and
Way to
say
do it.
you can sunsets on whatever date.
Okay. Okay, Board of, the two vacant, what? Go ahead.
I don't understand why they would get rid of FAST before coming up with a new thing.
Most other clubs were doing their own thing anyway.
It was, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze is what SSA said. That's what it came down to, administratively, and they just kind of wanted to go like this.
Mike?
Can you just add the word unexpired? Does that solve the problem?
I can do that. Okay, as you saw in membership, we had two seats open on the board, Rob Jacobson and Peter Ross. So we had two candidates. So drum roll, they both won. And that was it. Stephanie, you?
Super quick, Keith glossed over it slightly. On the previous slide, or a couple slides back, it mentioned that he's going away, and so we're going to be looking for a new secretary for the board towards the end of 2025. Hopefully there's some overlap so that Keith can kind of show you how he does everything, because he does a fantastic amount of work. So don't let that scare you off. Please, please. So I would love to have a volunteer to step up for secretary. The last thing I want to do before I give y'all a show, what time is it?
It's 11:15. 10-minute break.
10-minute break before we start our safety meeting. I would like to introduce Jeff, who is our FAA representative. He's here. He's who helped us be able to get wings credit for this program.
So at 77, my name is Jeff Baumgartner. You're probably familiar with Perry Benshoff. He was the last fast rep. Perry was operational fast rep. I'm an aviator, a maintenance fast rep. So your operational questions that you have, feel free to give them to me, and I'll get you an answer for them. But I may not have an answer right away. You want to talk maintenance? I'll talk maintenance with you all day long. So it's a pleasure to be here. Man, there's a lot of people. This is good to see this kind of interest. So
welcome
I'm around.
during the break.
Yep. I'll be around.